Chapter 984. I wanted Dora to just die like that. Cole continued. Suddenly, he laughed and said, but I unexpectedly found out something interesting. A tiger who yearned for the sea once met a female mermaid by the sea and fell deeply in love with her. It's a pity that tigers cannot survive in the deep ocean, and since there are so few mermaid females, they would never leave the ocean to live on land. Tiger? Huh. Wasn't Leonard just a tiger? Gu Ming Ming gave a disdainful chuckle. Why taint the word accident? Didn't you choose to make use of Dora from the very beginning because you saw this added value in her? Cole's eyes brightened. He looked at Gu Ming Ming with obvious approval. Agu is indeed Agu. She is so different from those foolish females. Gu Ming Ming was not at all happy to be praised by Cole. She stared at Cole coldly and didn't say another word. Cole was still smiling. He said, and I really don't know what to do with you, Tone. All right, I admit it. From the start, I knew that the female mermaid Leonard had his eyes on was Dora. But Dora only wanted Fei Rue. She would never leave with Leonard. So I could only play a little trick to help this pair of lovers be together. Play a little trick? Ha! Gu Ming Ming despised Cole 1,000,000 times in her heart. He used these few words to describe Dora's hellish torment as a slave of the clan. He had used the fox's seductive fragrance to attract the male fish to torture Dora. Part of it was his vulgar sense of humor, but more importantly, it was to make Dora's heart break down and sink into despair. This was the only way for Dora to hug Reynold tightly when he appeared, as if clutching at a life-saving straw. And the clueless Leonard would only feel heartache over the torment his beloved had suffered. Step by step, he would fall into Cole's trap. The most important part was that Cole had predicted that Dora would never be able to obtain Fei Rue, because once Dora obtained Fei Rue, she would devote all her attention to Fei Rue and would never work for Cole again. In other words, from the very beginning, Cole had never intended for Dora to obtain Fei Rue. He had lied to her. He had lied to her right from the start. As for Dora, it was probably only on her deathbed that she understood. Using Fei Rue to keep Dora hanging, instigating Carter to imprison Melinda, forcing Fei Rue into a corner. Then, he would intentionally leak news of the kiss of the ocean to Fei Rue. Eager to save his sister, Fei Rue would naturally head to St. Nazaire to look for Gu Ming Ming. Cole did not need to interfere in the subsequent matters. He only needed to manipulate a few chess pieces at the crucial moment to easily achieve his goal. Once Reynold rescued Dora, he would use Fei Rue to summon Dora again. Dora had done so much for Fei Rue. She would not be satisfied if she could not have Fei Rue. So, Dora would definitely listen to Cole and instigate Leonard to take in the old tribesmen who had attacked the Snake King Valley. Then, she would go to Sauter to ask for peace and use the soul of the forest in exchange for Gu Ming Ming's forgiveness. Ha! Was this the real reason why Cole wanted Gu Ming Ming to go to Sauter before winter? He had to ensure that Leonard would be able to find Gu Ming Ming when he went to sue for peace. Thinking about it this way. Chapter 985. Cole stared at Gu Ming Ming with an even more amazed expression. He said with anticipation, "My Agu is so smart. Tell me, what else can you think of? I'll tell you everything you've guessed." Gu Ming Ming gritted her teeth and turned away from Cole. She didn't want to speak to Cole anymore. She was afraid that she would lose control and strangle Cole to death. She was even more afraid that if she continued, she would kill herself on impulse. There were clues everywhere. Why didn't she see it back then? The stray beasts had attacked them at the bottom of the sea. Their 100-strong team had been reduced to a few kittens. Carter was severely injured, while Fei Rue, who was weaker than him, only had a few superficial wounds. And she had clearly noticed that the stray beasts were intentionally attacking Melinda. She had just thought that it was to restrain Carter and Fei Rue. Now that she thought about it, it was Dora who wanted to kill Melinda and snatch Fei Rue away. But there was one thing that Gu Ming Ming couldn't understand. Melinda was Fei Rue's biological sister. She wasn't a threat to Dora. Why did she hate Melinda so much that she was willing to risk the chance to snatch Fei Rue away just to kill Melinda? Was it an intolerable relationship between a lover's sister? Or was there something else between her and Melinda that wasn't their relationship? She couldn't figure out and had nowhere to ask. Dora was dead. The reason why she could not tolerate Melinda had become a thing of the past. With Dora's death, the dust had settled. Gu Ming Ming didn't pursue the matter further. She just buried her face in Elvis's neck and whispered, "I'm tired. Let's sleep for a while." Let's sleep." Elvis supported her, but with one hand, and patted her back with the other, patting her gently in a rhythmic manner. Leah had been standing between Gu Ming Ming and Cole. His furry tail seemed to be swaying nonchalantly, but it blocked Cole's line of sight completely. It was fine when his Gu Ming Ming wanted to talk to Cole. But now that his Gu Ming Ming was about to sleep, Cole was still looking at her shamelessly. Cole looked at Leah and chuckled. "Ninth Highness, aren't you a little too impatient? This kind of childish behavior. Ha! It will only make me feel that treating you as an opponent is simply an insult to myself." Leah was neither angry nor amused. He just looked at Cole coldly and said, "Childish? But my Ming Ming said that this is called a child's heart, and she likes it very much." Leah was filled with disdain. If Cole had tried to goad him into action in the past, he might have fallen for it, or at least his emotions would have been affected. But when they were carving the 36 stratagems on the wall of the meeting room, Gu Ming Ming had told them the gist of these stratagems as she watched them carve. These days, he had been pondering over and over again when he had nothing to do, and now he had mastered it thoroughly. It would not be as easy as before for Cole to use these tricks against him again. Cole also knew that Leah had learned the 36 stratagems before, so he did not think that he would succeed in goading him into action. It was just a test. "Huh," Cole chuckled and said, "Agu has contributed a lot to Ninth Highness growth. I'm getting more and more interested in her. She can even train an innocent person like you to this extent, if she were to be with me." Chapter 986. Cole chuckled, but didn't answer Lee's question. He wasn't angry either. Dirty? It didn't matter, as long as Agu was as dirty as him. So, as long as she liked them, he would send them to her bed, no matter how many males there were, for her to pick and play with. As long as he was the one standing by her side in the end, everything would be fine. Cole didn't say anything else. Leah also couldn't be bothered to waste time with him. The group didn't say anything else until the white fog was completely absorbed by the soul of the forest in Gu Ming Ming's hands. Only then did they see that under the white fog, there was a natural tunnel formed by the intersecting trees above their heads. It was just like the long corridor where princes and princesses would walk hand in hand when they got married. Sunlight shone down, creating countless rays of light that added a sense of romance and warmth to the long corridor. If Wabi-Ai and Cole weren't around, this scene would be the most beautiful and romantic. Gu Ming Ming didn't want to talk to Cole, and he didn't continue chattering. They finally reached the end of the path. Gu Ming Ming lay on Elvis's shoulder, her face facing the path they had walked through. She didn't turn back, but Gu Ming Ming could feel a cold, murderous intent behind her. This murderous intent wasn't directed at her. Elvis, Leah, and Wabi-Ai were all around. Even if she wasn't a beast king and was just an ordinary female, no one could hurt her in front of the three of them. She turned back with a probing look. Meeting Leonard's bloodshot eyes, Gu Ming Ming frowned. Seeking revenge, Gu Ming Ming muttered softly. It wasn't a question, but a statement. On the way here, Cole had already admitted that he was the one who killed Dora. Hence, it was obvious who Leonard was waiting for. Cole didn't seem surprised by Leonard's appearance. His smile turned chilly as he said, "You have disappointed me again, little Xian." Gu Ming Ming's body stiffened at the last word. Just a moment ago, she had been standing by as if this matter had nothing to do with her. But now, her beautiful eyes were searching everywhere. Little Xian, Qi Xian. The smell of blood filled her nostrils. Gu Ming Ming carefully identified it for a long time before realizing that it was Qi Xuan's scent. Cole was not lying to her. Qi Xian was here, and he was injured. She glanced sharply at Cole, but he shrugged his shoulders innocently and said, "Little Xian was the one who requested to stop Leonard and let me go and fetch you. I was just following Little Xian's wishes." Reynold was a level 4 orc. Even though he had just suffered from the backlash of the mating contract, the difference in levels was huge. How could Qi Xian, a newly evolved level 1 orc, defeat him Cole was forcing Qi Xian into a dead end. Clenching her fists tightly, Gu Mingming squeezed out 2 words from the gaps of her teeth. Kuh. Ugh. Cole chuckled and replied with a sweet smile. Ah, Gu, you're looking at me so intently again. It's so nice. I'll kill you. Gu Mingming's eyes were bloodshot and filled with hatred. He looked into Gu Mingming's eyes with a look of enjoyment. Yeah, I'm very honored to be the first soul whose name is remembered in your hands. Throw open my chest and use my blood to establish your bloodthirsty rule. I will be the first soul whose name is remembered in your hands. With Xian accompanying me on the road to the Yellow Springs, I'm not afraid of loneliness. Intimidation. This was blatant intimidation. Cole was saying that if he died, Qi Xian would be buried with him. Chapter 987. Gu Mingming was being carried by Cole. She clenched her fists tightly to stop her body from trembling. At the same time, Leonard had already rushed over. He did not care that he was covered in blood, nor did he care that he was no match for Cole as a 4th level. He was already blinded by hatred. Other than killing Cole, he had no other thoughts. However, just as he reached Cole, he was stunned by Cole's sneer. Kneel down. Leonard's entire body convulsed uncontrollably. Then he really knelt down. Gu Mingming was very surprised. She did not feel any beast pressure from Cole at all. But Leonard was obviously stunned. This, Cole looked up, enjoying Gu Mingming's surprised gaze. He smiled. Gu, do you see that? I am such an unparalleled existence, and I have left a place for you by my side. As long as you are willing, you are my master. I am willing to submit to you, to use this world as a stepping stone, and to bring you to a higher place. There's no need, Gu Mingming said. She patted Elvis's shoulder and asked him to bring her away. Gu Mingming felt some sympathy for Leonard. Those who hated stray beasts had now become stray beasts, but still had to crawl at the feet of their enemies, unable to resist. Gu Mingming finally understood what Leah had said before. Cole had never enjoyed killing, but seeing others struggle in despair. He wanted the pleasure of trampling on others, and Gu Mingming could not do anything about Leonard's predicament. After all, Dora was the female he had chosen. He was also the one who had decided to take in the old tribesmen who had attacked the Snake King Valley. He had even used the soul of the forest to sue for peace and left Dora behind to search for the soul of the forest with her. He had done everything himself. Now that he had ended up like this, who could he blame? Cole had made use of Dora to scheme against Gu Mingming. But Gu Mingming knew that she had never harmed anyone before. She would not be so innocent as to take all the blame on herself and say that if it wasn't for her, things would not have turned out this way. She just wanted to know where her son was and how he was now. Elvis understood Gu Mingming and did not say a word. He just carried Gu Mingming out of the corridor and looked around for Qi Xian, who was sprawled under a tree not far away. Clearly, he had been beaten back to his original form. If not for the slight rise and fall of his abdomen indicating that he was still alive, Gu Mingming would have fainted from not being able to catch her breath. Leah stepped forward and started his treatment without a second word. Frowning, Leah cursed in his heart. This damned Leonard, he was too heavy-handed. If Cole didn't kill him later, he would kill him with his own hands. Mingming's heart would ache to see Qi Xian beaten up like this. Leah, how is Qi Xian? Gu Mingming's voice was very soft, as if raising her voice would cause further harm to Qi Xian. But even such a soft sound could not cover the frequency of the trembling. This son of hers always tugged at her heart, causing her so much pain that she wished she were dead. Leah took a deep breath, then turned to look at Gu Mingming. He frowned and said, Mingming, you have to promise me that you must remain calm. Once she said that, Gu Mingming's whole body went limp, and she directly fell into Elvis's arms. She held back her tears and asked, will he die? Chapter 988. Gu Mingming nodded. She knew this, because last winter, when Elvis pretended to be unconscious to create an opportunity for Leah, Leah had told her this. Once something happened to her, Leah would prioritize taking care of her regardless of anyone else's life or death. So, if she wanted Leah to focus on treating Qi Xian, she had to adjust her attitude. She could not allow herself to be distracted by anything. Leah held Gu Mingming's shoulders with both hands. Seeing her determined expression and gradually calming gaze, he exchanged a look with Elvis before continuing to treat Qixuan. Many of Qixuan's bones were fractured, probably caused by external injuries. His internal organs were also severely damaged, probably caused by his refusal to submit to the beast pressure of a higher level. There was a serious buildup of water in his chest, and blood kept flowing from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were starting to lose focus, as if he was forcing himself to look in a certain direction. Leah followed his gaze. It was not Gu Mingming, but Cole. "Rascal, listen up." Leah pinched Qixuan's mouth and forced his face to face him. Then, he said with a cold expression, "If you die, your mother will kill Cole to vent her anger. And I will put all the tears your mother shed because of your death on Cole's account. I will open a sacrificial altar and make him suffer for eternity, never to see the light of day again. I am a witch doctor, and also the son of the deity of the Snow Fox tribe. You know I have this ability. If you want to protect Cole, you better grit your teeth and bear with it. Live on no matter how painful it is." With that, Lee's palm turned into a sharp claw and accurately opened a small hole in the water in Qixuan's chest, letting the water out. Gu Mingming's heart ached as she watched, but there was nothing she could do. In this F*King era where there were no anesthetics, Gu Mingming really wanted to use her own chest to bear the pain in Qixuan's place. But she could not make a sound. She could not even cry, because any emotion she showed would distract Leah. Clenching her own mouth tightly, Gu Mingming stared fixedly at Qixuan. Leonard's tragic cries came from behind, but Gu Mingming could not muster up a single ounce of sympathy. Her son had been injured by Leonard. This was a debt that Cole and Leonard could not escape from. Ugh. Qixuan coughed out a mouthful of blood onto Lee's face. Leah continued to focus on treating Qixuan's injuries as if he could not feel it. Cole walked to Gu Mingming's side and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He looked at Qixuan and Leah with a cold smile on his lips, completely unable to see the love he had for Qixuan in the past. Qixuan's body convulsed even more violently. His eyes were already glazed over, and it was obvious that he could not hold on any longer. Then, Qixuan gradually calmed down. He stopped convulsing. Furthermore, he did not move an inch. Gu Mingming could not control herself and started sobbing softly. Leah stood up and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He could not bear to see her teary eyes, so he just lowered his head and said, "Mingming, I'm sorry, Gu Mingming's emotions crumbled at those 3 words. She shook her head furiously. "No, don't let me down. Leah, I beg you, save Qixuan. If there was a way, how could I bear to let you shed a single tear?" Leah was speechless and could not say a single comforting word. Chapter 989. Gu Mingming widened her eyes and glared at Cole. "If you lie to me, I will make sure you die a horrible death." Cole chuckled and released Gu Mingming's chin. With his palm facing upwards, he said, "Give me the soul of the forest." Without another word, Gu Mingming handed the soul of the forest to Cole. Without further ado, Cole turned around and squatted beside Qixuan. Then, he placed that tiny branch between Qixuan's brows. Like a leaf in Gu Mingming's palm, that branch gradually melted between Qixuan's brows and disappeared. A tattoo-like mark appeared on Qixuan's forehead. It was just a branch with 2 forks. One of the leaves was quietly unfurled, while the other was still curled up like a baby's swaddling clothes. A miraculous scene unfolded before Gu Mingming's eyes. The wounds on Qixuan's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The rise and fall of his abdomen increased and gradually calmed down. Without another word, Leah squatted back beside Qixuan and flipped open his eyelids to look at his pupils. He then turned to look at Gu Mingming and nodded with a smile. Gu Mingming then heaved a sigh of relief, feeling that her heart had finally returned to her chest. Cole tilted his head and looked at Gu Mingming. "Gu, I saved little Shin again. Tell me, how should you repay me?" "Repay?" Gu Mingming's eyes were about to bleed, and the blood vessels on her fists were about to burst. She questioned him word by word. "You almost killed my son. How do you think I should repay you?" Cole looked at Gu Ming with an innocent expression. It was little Xian's own decision to stay and fight with Leonard. He is an adult. Shouldn't he be responsible for his own decision? Furthermore, the one who injured little Xian was Reynold. I have already crushed Reynold's bones inch by inch to avenge little Xian. You even used the soul of the forest to extend Xian's life. The kiss of the ocean and the soul of the forest are the ransom that you promised me. I used such precious treasures on Xian. Shouldn't you be thanking me? Gu Mingming suddenly felt that she could not speak. Gu Mingming's worldview was so low that she could not respond to it. It was said that a tree without its skin would definitely die, and a person without face would be invincible. This time, she had seen it for herself. He had harmed her son so many times, and now she was thanking him. What do you think if I remove your head? Gu Mingming clenched her fists, wishing she could crush his head. But Cole chuckled. He glanced sideways at Qi Xian, who had yet to wake up. You don't want the son you just saved? You. Gu Mingming was trembling with rage, but she was helpless because of Qi Xian. She could only grit her teeth and ask, What do you want for Qi Xian to be let off? Cole tapped his chin and looked up at the sky. He seemed to think for a long time before replying slowly. I'll use you to exchange for it. How about that? If you stay by my side, I will let Qi Xian go and let him leave me. Another one. Gu Mingming would never agree to Cole's conditions, because if she did, she would be forcing Elvis and Leah to die. Cole thought about it awkwardly, then pointed at Gu Mingming's left ear and said, How about cutting off your left ear and giving it to me? Left ear. That was where Lee's mating mark was. Chapter 990. If one ear could be used to exchange for a son, Gu Mingming would not hesitate at all. Cole shook his head, his gaze cold. You clearly know that I do not want to hurt you. Why do you have to provoke my jealousy? I can't bear to hurt you, so I can only vent my anger elsewhere. Tell me, how about I change little Xian's name? Not Qi Xian. Let's change him to Fish in the Pond. You keep using Qi Xian to threaten me. Aren't you sick of it? Gu Mingming really hated him. She swore that as long as Qi Xian was no longer so blindly loyal to Cole, she would personally tear Cole into pieces. But Cole didn't mind. He just smiled. It doesn't matter if it's new or old, as long as it works. Little Xian is your Achilles heel. As long as I control him, you can't do anything to me, right? Even if you're so angry that you want to bite me to death, I will still generously display my artery in front of you, but you still have to forcefully suppress your desires and anger. Gu, your life is too tiring. Isn't it better to be more unbridled? As long as you can break through that shackle, your soul will be the most free. Break through the shackle? The shackle in his eyes was her son. Anyone could say harsh words, but if they couldn't do it, it was just nonsense. Gu Mingming didn't want to waste even a little more saliva on Cole. She just glared at him fiercely. She wanted to remember the pain and anger she was feeling now, so that she could settle the score with him in the future. Qi Xian made a soft sound. Gu Mingming's heart was on Qi Xian. She jumped down from Elvis's arms and pounced towards Qi Xian. She hugged him carefully. Qi Xian, tell Mummy, are you feeling better? Does it still hurt? Qi Xian moved his limbs slightly, before slowly transforming into a human in Gu Mingming's arms. Gu Mingming sized Qi Xian up. She didn't see a single wound on him. She touched his arms and legs. His bones had all grown back. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. Qi Xian looked at Gu Mingming and pursed his lips, as if he did not know what to say. Him following Cole was equivalent to Gu Mingming being controlled by others. Seeing Gu Mingming being forced into a corner because of him, it was not that he did not feel guilty, but he could not stop. He wanted to say, Mom, I'm sorry. But how could these 5 words express his apology? Besides, if he didn't repent, what was the point of saying sorry? He also wanted to say, Mummy, don't bother about me in the future, but he also knew that Gu Mingming was different from other females. If she could be more selfish and not care about his life or death, she would not have been so helpless against Cole and could only shed tears. If only his mother was a little more selfish, then perhaps his heart would not be so tormented. But his mother was not him. She did not have a heart as cruel as him, nor did she have a personality as selfish as him. In the end, Qi Xian did not say a single word to Gu Mengmeng. He just stood there and let Gu Mengmeng stare at him with her teary eyes. Then, he turned around and walked back to Cole's side. He lowered his head and did not say a word, just frowning deeply. Cole gently rubbed Qi Xuan's head with his large hands. "My good little Qi Xian, this is a blessing in disguise for you. Not only did you not die, you even leveled up. You are indeed the son I raised. You are indeed the most outstanding one in the litter of cubs." Aside from the topic, today's update has ended, sigh. I still had to be disgusted by Cole on my birthday. I'm probably the only author who would torture himself like this. Chapter 991. Seeing that Cole was about to bring Qi Xian away, Gu Mengmeng grabbed Qi Xuan's hand. "Qi Xian, Mummy has not seen you for a long time. Can you stay with me for a few days? Just a few days." Qi Xian did not say a word and just looked at Cole with pursed lips. Cole smiled but did not say a word. He had a you-decide attitude. Gu Mengmeng ignored Cole and just walked to Qi Xian. Her eyes were filled with anticipation and even pleading. "Your brothers are here too. They're in the stray beast camp. They just evolved into level 1 orcs. You probably haven't seen what they look like after evolution, have you? Let's go take a look, okay?" Qi Xian remained silent as he looked at Cole again. Gu Mengmeng bit her lip. She had never thought that there would be a day when she would have to beg another man in order to keep her son by her side. Most importantly, this man was not even her son's father. The humbleness that she had never experienced in love was all used on her son. Gu Mengmeng turned around, her hand still clutching tightly onto Qi Xuan's wrist, as if she was afraid that he would run away the moment she turned around. Gu Mengmeng bit her lip and said, "I want Qi Xian to stay with me for a few days. Go ahead." Cole stood with his hands clasped behind his back, as if he didn't care at all, but that sly and cold smile was filled with a sense of provocation. This meant that if he did not agree, Qi Xian would not agree. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath. "Isn't the stray beast camp your territory? Since we're already here, why not go back and take a look?" Cole chuckled and played with a few strands of hair in front of Gu Mengmeng's forehead. "Gu, are you inviting me?" Gu Mengmeng suppressed her disgust and glared at Cole with clenched teeth. It was as if Cole could not understand the hatred in her eyes. He nodded and accepted it gladly. "Since it is Gu's invitation, how can I let her down? I'll accompany you wherever you go." Gu Mengmeng turned to pull back her hair, then turned to look at Qi Xian, her face full of anticipation. Qi Xian opened his mouth and finally said softly, "I will go wherever he goes." Gu Mengmeng nodded and pulled Qi Xian into her arms. Now, Qi Xian was as tall as a grown man, and Gu Mengmeng could no longer carry him like a child. Today, she could only wrap her arms around his waist, and her height only reached his chest. But even so, a mother's hug still exuded boundless warmth, burning Qi Xuan's chest. Gu Mengmeng did not let Elvis hug her, but held onto Qi Xuan's hand stubbornly, not willing to let go for even a moment. Elvis's heart ached for her to walk on the mountain roads. Even though she was wearing bee-skin boots, the soles were too thin and her feet were so soft. Her skin would break after walking for less than 500 meters. If she really had to walk to the base camp of the backwave beasts, her feet would be so worn that even her bones could be seen. Hence, Elvis transformed into his beast form and carried Gu Mengmeng on his back. He did not seem to mind that the mounts of most females in the beast world were beast pets that would never have the chance to mate. That was a sign that their family status was low and they lacked power. He didn't care what others thought of him, as long as his Xiao Meng didn't suffer. Chapter 992. Gu Mengmeng didn't have time for him. Elvis, who was carrying Gu Mengmeng, also didn't have time for him. Leo was free, but a 4th-level beast was too weak. So, Wabi-Ai turned his attention to Cole. "I heard you were the king of the stray beasts." Wabi-Ai asked. Cole chuckled. "How would I dare to call myself king in front of Lord Wabi-Ai?" Wabi-Ai really didn't like such a pretentious person. He snorted. "I saw that you were quite arrogant when you were mocking Gu Mengmeng. Why are you so terrified now?" Cole wasn't angry. I've always been gentle and polite to those I cannot afford to offend. That was the truth. Cole couldn't beat Wabi-Eye. There used to be someone in this world who could beat Wabi-Eye, Snake. Unfortunately, he died. Now, there was Gu Ming Ming, who could beat Wabi-Eye. Unfortunately, she was busy, Wabi-Eye shouted. Being invincible is so empty. He glanced sideways at Cole. If you're a coward, then so be it. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? With that, he ignored Cole's reaction and walked over to Gu Ming Ming. Gu Ming Ming, where are we going next? When are we going to fight? I have been cooped up for an entire winter. My bones are all stiff. Gu Ming Ming glared at Wabi-Eye impatiently. Do you think I have violent tendencies? How can there be so many fights for you? Don't disturb me from coaxing my son. Wabi-Eye pointed at Qi Xian. He's already so big. Does he still need you to coax him? I don't care. Hurry up and fight me. Gu Ming Ming was really annoyed. She hooked her finger at Wabi-Eye to come over. Wabi-Eye swung his arms and walked to Gu Ming Ming's side. Then, he was sent flying far away by a slap from Gu Ming Ming. He only managed to stop after crashing through 7 to 8 trees. This time, not only Wabi-Eye, but even Gu Ming Ming herself was stunned. Her strength, when did it become so great? In the past, Wabi-Eye would stop after crashing into a tree. At most, he would break one. Today, she had purposely held back. How did this happen? Wabi-Eye wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and swooped back in front of Gu Ming Ming. He stared fixedly at Gu Ming Ming and hesitated for a long while. Let me see the mark on the back of your neck. Gu Ming Ming pushed aside her hair and turned to show Wabi-Eye. Wabi-Eye was stunned for a moment and shook his head. It's not him. It's not him. How could this happen? Why isn't it him? What? Gu Ming Ming didn't know what was going on either. She was a little worried when she saw Wabi-Eye looking like he had seen a ghost. Wabi-Eye stared at Gu Ming Ming with widened eyes, as though blood was about to drip out of them. He held on to Gu Ming Ming's shoulders and said, Go and see your father now. Ask him what he did to Snake. Gu Ming Ming reached out to touch the back of her neck. She could not see any changes to the mark, so she could only seek help from Leah, who was standing behind her and scrutinizing the mark on the back of her neck. She used her gaze to ask if there was anything wrong with Snake's mark. Leah was a fox. He might be able to differentiate the minute differences between animals with 4 legs, but snakes, from Lee's point of view, every snake really looked the same. Leah shook her head, indicating that she did not know. Gu Ming Ming could only look at Wabi-Eye again. Don't be crazy. You have to explain clearly before I can ask. You're already more than 800 years old. Why are you so jumpy? Chapter 993. Change. Gu Ming Ming didn't understand. She looked down at her collarbone. Elvis was a 3rd-level beast when they mated, and now he was a 5th-level beast. But the mating mark hadn't changed. It had remained the same as when he was a 3rd-level beast. The mark on her ear could only be seen at the water's edge, but Leah would definitely tell her if there were any changes. So why did Snake's mark change? Was it because it wasn't a mating mark, but a protection mark? But what was the turning point? Could it be that Wabi-Eye's worries were right? Did something happen to Snake over there? Perhaps she really should ask the beast deity. But, looking at Qi Xian, who was holding hands, Gu Ming Ming pursed her lips and suppressed the uneasiness in her heart. She couldn't go to sleep now. She would sleep for at least 3 to 4 days, and Qi Xian would definitely be gone by the time she woke up. If she missed this chance, she didn't know when she would see Qi Xian again. There was one thing she had to try no matter what. She couldn't help but hold Qi Xuan's hand tighter. Gu Ming Ming's eyes were filled with determination. She looked back at Wabi-Eye and said, I will ask him later, but not now. Wabi-Eye was enraged. He pointed at Gu Ming Ming and shouted, He has already died for you once. What else do you want him to do? Is your female heart made of stone? Can't you show him even the slightest bit of mercy? Gu Ming Ming bit her lip and accepted all of Wabi-Eye's accusations. She admitted that she owed Snake. She deserved to be scolded, but she was a mother. In her eyes, nothing was more important than her own son. Qi Xian had already gone through the gates of hell once today. She couldn't guarantee that pervert Cole would think of another way to torture Qi Xian or place him in some dangerous place again. She wanted to snatch Qi Xian back. She had to snatch him back. You? Seeing Gu Mingming's silent but uncompromising attitude, Wabiai's eyes narrowed. He was clearly enraged. Charging forward, he roared, "I will knock you out even if I have to risk my life today." Before Wabiai could reach Gu Mingming, Leah had already scooped her into his arms and retreated far away. Meanwhile, Elvis stood up at the same time and neutralized Wabiai's attack. Both of them continued to fight. Elvis and Wabiai had fought many battles, real or fake, so they were familiar with each other's attacks. At this moment, Wabiai was really anxious. Snake was a string that he could not touch, and he could not calm down at all. On the other hand, Gu Mingming was the bottom line that Elvis would never give in to. No matter how strong she was, he would never allow anyone to attack her in front of him. The two of them were locked in a stalemate. In terms of skills, Elvis was still slightly weaker than Wabiai. Seeing that Elvis was gradually losing ground, Gu Mingming frowned and shouted, "Everyone stop!" She did not release her beast pressure. But Wabiai suddenly fell to the ground, as if something was pressing down on him. He couldn't even get up. Elvis stood rooted to the ground, stunned for a moment. Turning back to look at Gu Mingming, he was also in a daze. Gu Mingming didn't know what was going on. She had clearly just shouted, and she could scare the out-of-control Wabiai to the ground. She didn't think that Wabiai was that afraid of her. That was... Chapter 994. Gu Mingming suddenly recalled Cole telling Leonard to kneel down, as well as Leonard's strange reaction. Gu Mingming clearly remembered that she had not felt any pressure, but Leonard had knelt down at Cole's feet. The situation seemed to be the same as now. "What do you know?" Gu Mingming asked directly. Cole tapped his lips with his finger. "What's in it for me to tell you?" Gu Mingming snorted. "It's up to you." Ignoring Cole, Gu Mingming walked towards Wabiai. Worried that Wabiai would hurt Gu Mingming if he lost control again, Elvis and Leah guarded her from both sides. Gu Mingming walked to Wabiai and reached out a hand. "Listen to me when you have calmed down, all right?" Wabiai sprawled on the ground, unable to get up. This was different from the previous times when he was sent flying. He had no energy left in his body. Not to mention 5th-level orcs like Elvis or Cole, even a 2nd-level wolf cub like Chi Xian could easily kill him. Not to mention 5th-level orcs like Elvis or Cole. He did not move and just looked up at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming said, "Snake has another me accompanying him over there. He will not let that me fall into any danger. So the most important thing is to protect himself. Do you think Snake is someone who could be easily defeated?" Wabiai was stunned for a moment before shaking his head. Snake was a godlike existence. He was powerful and invincible. No one was his match. Be it in terms of intellect or martial skills, he was at the peak of perfection. At that thought, Wabiai calmed down a little. His vertical pupils gradually widened and his emotions visibly calmed down. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief before continuing, "I will ask my father about Snake later, but Chi Xian just came back from the gates of hell. I really can't stop worrying. Let me accompany my son first, all right?" Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. Wabiai snorted and did not say a word. The place where the beast deity was Gu Mingming's dream. Unless Gu Mingming was willing, no one could kidnap her and send her there. So Wabiai's words had no say in whether it was good or bad. "Can you get up now? Don't lie on the ground like a spoiled child." Gu Mingming smiled, her hand still extended in front of Wabiai's eyes. Wabiai roared internally. He wanted to stand up the moment he laid on the ground, but his eyelids were the most powerful part of his body. The most intense movement he could do was to blink. Cole took 2 steps forward and bent down to whisper into Gu Mingming's ear, "If you don't say he can get up, I'm afraid he will have to lie here for the rest of his life." Gu Mingming did not understand, but still tried it. "You can get up now." Wabiai flexed his fingers and felt his strength gradually returning. He propped himself up and sat up. Wabiai looked at Gu Mingming, then at Cole. "What do you know? Hurry up and tell me, or I will kill you." Cole did not seem to take Wabiai's threats seriously. He continued to smile casually, looking elegant but with a hint of provocation. "For little Xian's sake, Gu will definitely protect me. Gu is Gu, Ming. Chapter 995. Wabi-Ai's smile was filled with sarcasm. He had already been suppressing a bellyful of anger, and Cole was the only one here who had nothing to do with Gu Mengmeng. Who could he blame for throwing himself at him? At the end of the day, even when he was fighting with Elvis in a fit of anger, he did not really use his killer move. He still cared about Gu Mengmeng. After all, apart from Elvis, Gu Mengmeng was his only friend in the past 800 years. But Cole, a lowly ant. Squashing him to death was just right. Cole's neck was being strangled by Wabi-Ai, and he was almost suffocating. But he was still smiling provocatively. He had never been afraid of death before. But Qi Xian suddenly rushed out and bit Wabi-Ai's wrist that was strangling Cole. The bite force of second-level wolf beast was very shocking. If not for Wabi-Ai's insane level of power, his wrist would have been crushed in Qi Xuan's mouth. He wanted to raise his hand to slap him out of reflex, but when he saw Qi Xuan's face, Wabi-Ai finally stopped. If he slapped Qi Xian, he would be smashed into minced meat. Thinking of Gu Mingming's reaction when she found out about the special training he had done for the three little ones, Wabi-Ai knew that if he slapped him, Gu Mingming would never be friends with him again. Tightening the muscles on his wrist, he forcefully flicked Qi Xian away. This was the absolute suppression due to the difference in strength. Looking at his bleeding wound, Wabi-Ai frowned and walked away, ignoring everyone. Gu Mingming was in the wrong from the start. As the one who inherited everything from Snake, she should be concerned that something had happened to Snake's mark. Wabi-Ai's request was not unreasonable, but she had rejected Wabi-Ai's request for her son. And then her son had bitten him. Leah, go take a look at Wabi-Ai. He is injured. Leah understood Gu Mingming's worries, but shook his head. You should worry about Qi Xian first. Gu Mingming looked at Leah in confusion, before turning to look at Qi Xian. She realized that Qi Xian did not look too well and was shocked. Only then did she remember that Wabi-Ai and Snake were both venomous snakes. She still remembered that she had bitten Snake and almost lost her life. It was only because Snake turned around and helped her detoxify the poison that she managed to survive. Gu Mingming hurried forward and supported the swaying Qi Xian. Then, she let him lie flat on the ground and looked around, trying to find the antidote herb in Snake's memories. However, there was nothing. Gu Mingming was extremely anxious, but there was no other way. Just as he was thinking of learning from Snake and biting the tip of his tongue to feed some blood to Qi Xian, fighting poison with poison. But before she could do so, Qi Xian swayed and sat up again. He held his forehead with one hand and placed the other on Gu Mingming's shoulder. He gently pulled Gu Mingming into his arms and comforted her. Mom, don't worry. I'm fine. Gu Mingming's heart suddenly felt like it was being viciously clawed. All the grievances she had endured for the entire day suddenly exploded. Sobs, my little Xian. I thought you didn't want me as your mother anymore. You ignored me when I spoke to you. You didn't even follow me home when I asked you. Sobs. Seeing Gu Mingming cry like that, Qi Xian was clearly at a loss. He looked at Cole blankly. Cole seemed to have never dealt with such matters before, so he just stared blankly at Qi Xian. Chapter 996. Gu Mingming's bawling actually made the atmosphere much more relaxed. Qi Xian seemed to be extremely afraid of Gu Mingming's tears and didn't dare to make her feel at ease. Whenever he saw her red eyes, he would obediently reach out to hold her hand. Gu Mingming was overjoyed at this change. Ever since her son was taken away by Cole, he had never been close to her and would even deliberately distance himself from her. He always acted as if he wanted to avoid her and not acknowledge her. But now it seemed that she had been overthinking. Her son still loved her dearly. Otherwise, why would he be afraid of her crying? With this understanding, Gu Mingming's mood became much better. She always looked at Qi Xian with a wide smile, as if there were flowers blooming beside her head. Mingming, don't always look at Qi Xian. Look at me too. Leah swished his large tail in jealousy. For the first time, Gu Mingming was immune to Lee's tail. She pushed Leah away and continued smiling at Qi Xian. She elbowed Elvis and said, Look at how handsome my son is. Mom, don't worry, I'm fine. I am mommy, so carrying my son is such a warm boy. Gu Mingming had already repeated this, Mom. Don't worry, I'm fine 37 times. Every time, she would mimic Qishuan's tone and use a boy's voice to say it, until Elvis's ears were about to grow calluses. If not for the fact that he was very sure that Qi Xian was his son and would never have any other feelings for Gu Mingming, he would have already killed him. He shouldn't have had any wolf cubs back then. Why did he create so much trouble for himself? Elvis was furious, but didn't dare to say it out loud. He sighed and said, "Is it really all right for Wabi Ai to leave just like that?" Gu Mingming's face darkened at the thought of Wabi Ai. She then looked up with a smile and said, "It's all right. Little shit is not a petty person. At most, I'll let him bite me back." Elvis pointed at Qi Xian and said, "Him? Is he enough for Wabi Ai to take a bite?" Gu Mingming exploded and said, "What him? Who dares to bite my son? I'll kill him. I said bite me. Bite me and we'll call it even." Elvis held his forehead and said, "Why don't I or Leah return an arm?" Gu Mingming patted Elvis and said, "Although this sounds a little cunning, but don't worry, Wabi Ai will not really bite me." After all, Gu Mingming rubbed the back of her neck, a bitter smile on her face. She enjoyed all the benefits Snake had given her, but when his imprint went wrong, she did not even bother to look at him. She was indeed a bad woman. She was not worth all that Snake had done for her. But even so, in that world, Snake still doted on her so much. As Gu Mingming was in a good mood, the journey was not as boring. In the evening, they returned to the stray beast camp. Qi Xian could not stand Gu Mingming's sparkling eyes and finally decided to follow her back to the cave where they were temporarily staying for the night. He could also meet up with his brothers. Chapter 997. Returning to her cave, Gu Mingming could see Wabi Ai hanging from a tree outside the cave from afar. He was in his original form, hanging there lazily. The only thing missing was a sign around his neck that said, "I am in a bad mood. Come and coax me." Gu Mingming let Elvis and Leah bring Qi Xian into the house to familiarize themselves with the three little ones, while she walked over to Wabi Ai with her hands behind her back. She looked up at the huge snake hanging from the tree. She did not know if it was because of Snake's memories, but she did not seem to be too afraid of snakes now. Smiling shamelessly, Gu Mingming said, "Little shit, are we even now? I won't be angry at you, so don't be angry at me too, all right?" Wabi Ai stuck out his tongue and said in snake language, "Even? On what basis? What did I do to make you angry?" Gu Mingming pointed at his body and said, "You know I hate snakes shit and snakes that look like shit, yet you still hung your original form here. Aren't you purposely trying to annoy me? I have already endured my disgust to come over and express my goodwill to you, so don't be angry." Wabi Ai was so angry that he wanted to bite her to death. He came down from the tree, and by the time he stood in front of Gu Mingming, he had already transformed back into his human form. He pointed at Gu Mingming's nose and said, "Do you only dare to use your sharp tongue on me? Why didn't you scold back when Cole was making things difficult for you in the day?" Gu Mingming did not get angry. She wrapped her arms around Wabi Ai's arm and said, "Am I not a coward? I'm obviously bullying you because you can't bear to hit me." "You?" Wabi Ai was actually speechless. Gu Mingming tugged at Wabi Ai's arm and looked at the wrist that Qi Xian had bitten. She kept her smile and said in a low voice, Sorry, it was Qi Xuan's fault today. He shouldn't have bitten you." But Wabi Ai did not appreciate her apology and said, "There is nothing should or shouldn't. It is normal for males to attack each other. It was my decision not to retaliate. Who asked me to not be able to offend his mother?" Gu Mingming gave a sweet smile like a younger sister and said, "Let Leah take a look at it. Apply some herbs or something, so as not to leave a scar." Wabi Ai snorted coldly. "What's a small injury like this? In the past, when I was beaten up by Snake until I was on my last breath, I didn't even apply any ointment, but I was still full of energy the next day." Gu Mingming pursed her lips. "I intend to cast a bewitching spell on Qi Xian so that he will no longer rely on Cole. Only then will he return to my side, and I will no longer be held hostage by Cole. So, I really can't go see the beast deity today. Otherwise, when I wake up 3 or 4 days later, who knows where Qi Xian will be brought by Cole again. The longer they stay together, the worse it will be for me. So, I'm sorry." After fighting with Elvis and calming himself down by hanging on the tree in the afternoon, Wabi-Ai was no longer angry. Just as Gu Ming Ming had said, he could not bear to hit her. Even though he clearly knew that he was not Gu Ming Ming's match in a real fight, he just could not bring himself to attack this fellow who looked so small that he could flatten her with one slap. At first it was because of Snake, then it seemed to be out of habit. Accustomed to taking care of her, accustomed to protecting her, accustomed to her noise, accustomed to her dependence. There was a warmth to her body that made him want to approach her uncontrollably. But it was strange. He was clearly a cold-blooded animal, but he still yearned for warmth. Chapter 998. After coaxing Wabi-Ai, Gu Ming Ming entered the cave. The four children were already in a mess. Although Qi Xian appeared rather cold compared to the other three brothers, Gu Ming Ming could clearly see the smile in his eyes. Kanwu was the most carefree and did not feel that it was embarrassing for him to be born from the same womb as Qi Xian. Qi Xian was already a second-level beast, while he was just first level. On the contrary, he was extremely proud. He chased after Qi Xian with shining eyes, as if he could not wait for the whole world to know that his second brother could soar 90,000 miles into the sky and could stand shoulder to shoulder with the heavenly sun. This made Qi Xian feel rather embarrassed. It felt so good to be worshipped. Huda was the eldest among the four brothers. Although he was still a first-level beast, he behaved like a big brother. He only joined in occasionally as his brothers fooled around. Most of the time, he held a fruit by the side and stuffed it into the mouth of whoever came close to him. Jiaoyu was the smartest. He was not as strong as Qi Xian and not as strong as Kanwu, so he would run over to Huda to ask for food most of the time. Seeing that Jiaoyu was eating, Kanwu joined in the fun and stuffed the fruit into Qi Xuan's mouth instead of eating. Qi Xian was shocked by the stuffed fruit and was stunned for a moment before eating it with a smile. Seeing how the children were getting along so well, Gu Ming Ming could not bear to step into the cave and destroy this harmony. Seeing that Gu Ming Ming was standing at the cave entrance, smiling foolishly without entering, Elvis and Leah were annoyed by the four little ones. They grabbed the back of their necks and threw them out. There are many caves here. The four of you go and fight for a temporary place to stay. Elvis stood at the entrance and looked down at them. Kanwu snorted and hugged Qi Xuan's neck. Second brother, where we stay tonight is all up to you. Qi Xian was a little hesitant. Actually, he wanted to go back and find coal. But the three brothers were only first-level beasts. If the three of them went out to fight for a cave, they might even get injured if they failed. Although second-level beasts were not considered powerful in a place where stray beasts lived, Kanwu had worshipped them for an entire night. He felt that it was too disloyal to leave the three of them alone. So he nodded and allowed Kanwu to hug his neck affectionately as they walked away, swaying left and right. The four brothers discussed their battle strategy as they disappeared into the night. The laughter of the four brothers still echoed in the night sky. Their laughter was a little exaggerated, but it was very fitting of their age. She felt warmth behind her as Elvis pulled her into his arms. Let's go in. The night wind is cold. Don't get too cold. Gu Ming Ming did not turn back. She just leaned back and pressed her entire body against Elvis's chest. Her gaze was still fixed in the direction of her son's departure, and the corners of her lips curled upwards unknowingly. Even her voice was sweet. I never thought that I would get married at 18 years old and have 4 grown sons at 19 years old. Elvis tightened his embrace and said faintly, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have let you give birth so early. Idiot, why are you apologizing? I don't think it's bad. I just hope that it'll be better if it could be like this forever. Elvis knew that Qi Xian was Gu Mingming's sore point. This was also the reason why he said that Gu Mingming should not have given birth so early. Chapter 999. Fool. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, You gave me your entire heart. This is already the most beautiful form of love. How could it be just SOSO? Gu Mingming tilted her head and looked up at Elvis's side profile. The moonlight was gentle and hazy, adding a tinge of gentleness to his coldness, as if blurring his sharp edges. Even his blue eyes had a unique allure in the night. Hubby, I remember you telling me that you were angry at me the first time we met, blaming me for dressing weirdly and being unguarded. You said that if the person who came was not you, I would have been seen by others, so you were very angry. Thinking of the past, Gu Mingming could not help but chuckle. She continued asking, but you never told me, other than being angry, did you like me at all? If I didn't like you, why would I be angry? Stupid. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's lips at the last word, stupid. It was a light and lingering kiss. Elvis did not deepen the kiss and only asked back, what about you? Did you like me the first time you met me? Gu Mingming smiled shyly and said, the first time I saw you, God said 4 words in my ear. I can't escape from this calamity. The funny thing was that I thought you were just a dream and did not believe that there would be such a perfect you in real life. You even allowed me to tease you. Huh. I kissed you then and said I would not take responsibility. Isn't that considered acting like a hooligan? Yeah, you can say that. Elvis smiled indulgently and did not blame her. Instead, there was a tinge of sweetness in his smile. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, well, at the beginning of a great love story, there has to be someone acting like a hooligan first. Look, Whitesnake purposely made it rain to trick Su Xian's umbrella. Zhu Yingtai pretended to be crazy and teased Brother Liang when they were sending each other off. The 7 fairies blocked Dong Yang's way. The cowherd took away the weaver maiden's clothes while she was bathing. Gu Mingming seduced Elvis and kissed him in her swimsuit. Elvis listened to her fallacious reasoning, but did not argue with her. Whatever she said was good, and whatever she said was right. The cave is already warmed. Don't stand outside. The humidity during the rainy season is high, and it's not good for Gu Mingming. Leah called out from inside the cave. Elvis carried Gu Mingming back to the cave. Gu Mingming sat by the fire and hugged her knees. After hesitating for a moment, she said, I want to use the bewitching spell on Qi Xian. Leah pursed his lips and said, I have also thought of this idea, but I feel that it is not appropriate. Gu Mingming looked up. Are you also afraid that Cole might have given Qi Xian a hint beforehand, causing irreversible damage if I attempt to cover the bewitching spell? Leah nodded in reply. Gu Mingming sighed and said, this is also the reason why I did not dare to take action until now. But I can't wait any longer. Qi Xian almost died today. What about next time? I didn't know when Cole would push Qi Xian into danger again. I can't take it anymore. Elvis held Gu Mingming's shoulders gently and said in a low voice, maybe killing Cole is the simplest way. If you want, I can go now. Gu Mingming shook her head. Cole wants to kill him, but not now. I want to snatch Qi Xian back first before killing Cole. Otherwise, if Cole dies and my bewitching spell cannot be overlaid, with Qi Xuan's current feelings for Cole, I don't know what crazy things he will do. So Cole cannot die for now. Aside from the topic, yeah, that's all for today's update. I know everyone has been holding it in for a long time. Gu Mingming was unable to snatch Qi Xian back and was constantly threatened by Cole. Chapter 1000. The next day, the 4 brothers returned with bruised and swollen faces. It was also Gu Mingming's first time seeing someone's face turn into a colorful screen and still look extremely excited. Before Gu Mingming could say anything, she heard Elvis ask, did you win or lose? Of course I won. Kanwu raised his head with a proud look, feeling quite proud and elated. With that, Kanwu pounced towards Gu Mingming. Now that he was taller than Gu Mingming by 1.5 heads, Gu Mingming could no longer hug him like before. But he still could not change his habit of hugging Gu Mingming. He especially enjoyed the sight of Gu Mingming caressing his head and smiling indulgently. But the moment he hugged Gu Mingming, he touched the wound on his chest, causing him to grimace in pain. Elvis stood by Gu Mingming's side the whole time. He was extremely displeased with Kanwu hugging Gu Mingming, but could only bear with it due to Gu Mingming's love for the 4 children. Seeing Kanwu grimace in pain, she snorted coldly and said, that was an ugly win. You! Kanwu felt so embarrassed that he was flustered. Just as he was about to challenge her, he felt his waist tighten. Lowering his head, he met Gu Mingming's gentle gaze and forcefully swallowed back his words. He snorted and said, "I won't argue with you on account of my mother." Gu Mingming could not stop laughing. She reckoned that the only first-level orcs who dared to speak so arrogantly in front of fifth-level beasts like Elvis were the few cubs in her family. So, from a certain perspective, her sons were at least more courageous than others and very charismatic. "Quick, tell Mother, what happened to you guys yesterday?" Yesterday was the first day the four little ones officially became independent. It was also the first battle the four of them cooperated in. Gu Mingming had wanted to peek last night, but Elvis stopped her. He said that she needed to adapt to the fact that the children had grown up and needed to face the world independently. Upon hearing Gu Mingming asking about yesterday's incident, Kanwa's eyes immediately lit up. He pulled Gu Mingming to sit at the side and said, "Mother, let me tell you, the four of us went to fight a third-level beast last night." Third level. 3 level 1 beasts and 1 level 2 beast against a level 3 beast? Gu Mingming frowned. The difference in levels was absolute. It was the same when Leah completely defeated Nina's partner. She clearly remembered that Leah had taken less than a few seconds to settle Nina's over 10 partners. TSK, these 4 stinking brats. Don't they know to pick the soft ones to pinch? When stray beasts fought, they would immediately kill. How would they dare? Biting her lips, Gu Mingming held back her scolding words. The children were in high spirits, and Gu Mingming did not want to dampen their spirits with a bucket of cold water. Kanwa gesticulated as he talked about how brave the four of them were last night. From time to time, he even pulled the other 3 brothers to cooperate and show the scene to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming was infected by Kanwa's excitement and listened to his story nervously. Elvis and Leah were not very interested. After all, to them, the level of battle that Kanwa mentioned was not worth mentioning at all. Chapter 1001. But we were still not his match. At that time, Duh and Lou were all knocked down and could not even get up. But that stray beast had no intention of letting us off. Kanwa suddenly changed the topic, and his mood sank. Even Gu Mingming was so nervous that she held her breath and clenched her fists tightly. Even her brows were furrowed together. Just as that third-level beast was about to charge over and bite us to death, second brother rushed over like a deity and blocked our way. Suddenly, Kanwa's tone became louder. He turned and gestured to Qi Xian with both hands. Although I could only see second brother's back view, that back view was enough to win me over. He was tall, imposing and determined. He fulfilled all my fantasies of being a hero. Gu Mingming listened to Kanwa's fanboy narration and couldn't help smiling. And then, Kanwa lowered his head and looked at Gu Mingming with regret and grievance. He pouted and said, "Then I fainted. When I woke up, the 4 of us were already in the cave, and we don't know where that third-level beast went." Gu Mingming nodded. Fainted? Gu Mingming was a little speechless. He actually fainted at the most exciting part. Kanwa nodded and said with an aggrieved expression, "Yes, I fainted." Afterwards, no matter how I asked second brother to tell me what happened, he wouldn't tell me. "Mum, why don't you help me ask?" Gu Mingming looked up at Qi Xian. Qi Xian pursed his lips and looked like he was in a difficult position. It was obvious he didn't want to tell her. Gu Mingming didn't want to put Qi Xian in a difficult position. You are so close to your second brother. If he doesn't even want to tell you, why would he tell me? At your age, don't you all have some secrets that you can tell the whole world, but you're not willing to tell your parents? Kanwa raised his brows. No way. I have no secrets from Mom. No matter what it is, as long as Mom asks me, I will tell you. Gu Mingming chuckled and stood on tiptoes to rub Kanwa's little head. I will listen. Kanwa shook Gu Mingming's arm coquettishly. Mom, then help me ask second brother. Let me tell you, he is afraid of you now. If you ask him, he won't dare to not tell you. Gu Mingming pointed at herself. Afraid of me? By right, she had always been a loving mother, right? He had never said a harsh word to his sons, let alone hit them. There was no reason to be afraid of her, right? Kanwa whispered into Gu Mingming's ear. He is afraid that you will cry. Once you cry, he will be at his wit's end. Gu Mingming blushed at the thought of how she had cried in front of her son that day. Before he could say, "Don't mess around," Ma Ingwu stumbled forward and knocked down the other three like a bowling ball. The four brothers fell into a ball, and the youngsters, who were already covered in injuries, instantly wailed. And the main culprit, Elvis, only used one arm to carry Gu Meng Meng and said in a condescending manner, "If you dare to make my female cry again, I will kill you." Camel wanted to explode, but was pulled back by Jiaoyu. Then Jiaoyu climbed up and patted the dirt off his body. He tilted his head and said, "There are loopholes in your words." Elvis raised his eyebrows, but did not say anything. Chapter 1002. Jiaoyu purposely smiled until his eyes turned into crescents, because he looked the most like Gu Meng Meng when he smiled like that. If the four of us die, Mummy will definitely be the one crying the most. Jiaoyu blinked his eyes and purposely brought his face in front of Elvis. "So, do you want Mummy to cry or not?" Elvis reached out a large hand and caressed Jiaoyu's face. "I won't let her cry." Jiaoyu held onto Elvis's wrist with both hands and tilted his face to the side. His eyes peeked out from his palm. "If you don't want Mummy to cry, you can't do anything to the four of us, right?" Elvis gritted his teeth. This fellow was his son. He looked like Gu Meng Meng, but his brain was like Li's. Facing this fellow, Elvis could not muster up any strength at all. Shaking his head in exasperation, he still put Gu Meng Meng down. Then he grabbed the back of Jiaoyu's neck and kicked Kanwu. Glancing ahead, he said, "Follow me out to hunt." Kanwu was just about to reject him when Elvis said coldly, "If you want to quickly level up and catch up to Qi Xian, you have to work harder than him." Kanwu's words were stuck in his throat. Looking at Qi Xian, he did not say anything before following Elvis out. Leah started a fire outside the cave and prepared to cook. At that moment, only Qi Xian and Gu Meng Meng were left in the cave. Gu Meng Meng knew that Elvis was creating an opportunity for her, and she did not have much time left. Based on past experience, Qi Xian would definitely leave by noon the next day after spending the night at home. Gu Meng Meng tugged at Qi Xuan's hand and gently touched the wound on his face. "Does it still hurt?" Qi Xian shook his head. He seemed to be hesitating about something, but he still opened his mouth. "Last night, he saved us. No need to ask. It must be Cole." Gu Meng Meng pursed her lips and nodded slightly. Actually, she had guessed it. If it was someone else, Qi Xian would not have hidden it. He could just say it out loud. The reason why he did not say it despite Kanwu's pestering was because he knew that the other three brothers hated Cole as much as Gu Meng Meng. They would rather die than let Cole save them. "He's doing this for you." Qi Xian was calm, his tone unperturbed. "Mom, if I'm willing to come back and be a good son by your side forever, can you consider accepting him?" Gu Meng Meng was stunned, so his son gave her a third option. Other than abandoning his son or taking a risk out of desperation, there was a third option. She had said that her son was more important than her own life. Now, it was time to fulfill her promise. Was she willing to sacrifice herself, suffer a little, disgust herself a little, to accept Cole? As long as she was willing to sacrifice, be willing to be wronged, and be willing to be disgusted, her son would not have to bear the risk of stacking the bewitching spell. Gu Meng Meng lowered her body, as if all her rationality had been sucked out. There was only one voice echoing in his mind. She doesn't want to. She could die for Qi Xian, but she was not willing to accept Cole for Qi Xian. She was not as great as she thought she was. She really wasn't a good mother. Chapter 1003. He schemed against you, faked a kidnapping, and lured you to solder. He just wanted a chance to be alone with you and develop feelings for you. If scheming is unforgivable, then why did you accept Leah in the first place? Gu Meng Meng didn't say anything and just looked at Qi Xian quietly. She didn't know what to say. She just felt as if her heart had been placed into a washing machine and was spinning frantically to dehydrate it. It was a feeling of pain, but she couldn't pinpoint where it was. She could only stare blankly at Qi Xian, the son she owed the most and wanted to snatch back. After that, you were lured to the Snake King Valley, and Ellie almost took your life. You only know that Elvis and Leah almost lost their lives in order to decipher the traps so that Snake could rush to the scene in time to be your hero. But why didn't you think about whether those traps were to prevent them from saving you or to guide them to the right path? Because she had inherited Snake's memories, Gu Mingming knew that Elvis and Leah were trying their best to destroy the traps that Cole had set up when she was being beaten up by Ellie. Those traps looked dangerous, but only caused Elvis and Leah to be seriously injured. And it was indeed because of those traps that Snake could find her so quickly. Pursing her lips into a straight line, Gu Mingming didn't say anything and just looked at Qi Xian quietly. Perhaps, after hearing what he said today, she would understand why Qi Xian insisted on staying by Cole's side. Wouldn't that mean she could find a fourth path? Mother, have you ever thought about it? With Cole's abilities and methods, if he wanted to retaliate, would Elvis and Leah really be his match? He had lured you to the Snake King Valley, and what was his real motive? You still don't understand until now. Gu Mingming was stunned and frowned. Qi Xian realized that he was too emotional and took 2 deep breaths before continuing. From the outcome, you obtained the tier of the beast deity and became the most powerful existence in the beast world, right? Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat. So, Snake's death was within Cole's calculations? The difficulty of those traps and the number of traps were not set up randomly, but they were set up at the right time. It was because they knew that Snake could not bear to see her suffer and would definitely give her the tier of the beast deity when he saw her dying state. Right? Good. Very good. From now on, there was another score to settle between her and Cole. Mom, you always say that he is scheming against you, but haven't you noticed? Every time he schemed against you, the final result was that you got more. Even if you did not accept him because of his cruel methods, how clean could the things that Elvis and Leah had done in the past be? Mother, I'm not begging you to treat him like how you treat Leah and Elvis. You just need to do what you did in Solder previously and allow him to stay by your side. Even if he doesn't have any status, even if you don't take a look at him, it's fine. Can't you just give him a chance? Gu Mingming lowered her head, as if hesitating. Qishuan's gaze was fixed on Gu Mingming, all his attention focused on her. He anxiously waited for her to give him an answer the moment she lifted her head. After a long while, Gu Mingming finally raised her head slowly. Chapter 1004. Qi Xian was taken aback, as if he did not understand. He just felt that he could not shift his gaze away, as if Gu Mingming's eyes were glued to him. Gu Mingming's hand gently caressed Qi Xuan's little face. She said gently and warmly, "I'm sorry, Qi Xian. I am just a selfish woman. I am not willing to sacrifice my life to be with someone I do not love, nor am I willing to lose my son. So, if you blame me in the future, I will accept it all, because I deserve it." Mother. Qi Xian seemed to have guessed what Gu Mingming wanted to do. His eyes were trembling slightly, and every part of his body was resisting, but he could not break free. His lips trembled violently. He was already a second-level beast, but now he was like a helpless child. He stared at Gu Mingming and begged, "I beg you, don't, I'm sorry." A tear rolled down from the corner of Gu Mingming's eye, moistening her bitter smile. She waved a hand gently in front of Qishuan's eyes, before saying, "You are my child, the flesh and blood of Mother's heart. You should live a carefree life like your brothers. Stay away from Cole. He is too dangerous. Promise Mother, don't let Mother worry, all right?" Mother. Qi Xian was struggling. His subconscious was constantly resisting Gu Mingming's hypnosis. But Gu Mingming had been secretly releasing the fox seductive fragrance the moment Elvis brought the 3 little ones out. Now, the fox seductive fragrance in the cave had reached a certain level. Moreover, Gu Mingming's hypnosis technique originated from Wang Xiaoxin's knowledge and understanding, so it could be said to be at the peak of perfection. So even though Qi Xian was resisting, he could not break free. Seeing how Qi Xian was trying so hard to break free from her hypnosis, Gu Mingming felt very upset. She knew that she could not turn back now. If the hypnosis failed, or if Qi Xian woke up one day, she might lose this son forever. Sniffling, Gu Mingming allowed her tears to roll down her cheeks. She said in a nasal voice, "I beg you, Qi Xian, Mother really cannot live without you. Just stay by Mother's side, all right? Mother will protect you well in the future." I will never let anyone have the chance to hurt you, make use of you, or take you away. I beg you, all right? No. Qishuan's eyes were already starting to glaze over. A drop of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, stinging Gu Mingming's eyes. He was clenching his teeth to prevent himself from being controlled by Gu Mingming's bewitching spell, so much so that his gums were bleeding. Gu Mingming held Qishuan's face with both hands. At that moment, she felt as if her heart was being torn apart. It was as if she had done something very cruel, and the victim was her own son. Qi, forget about Cole. He is not a good man. Don't go near him again, don't. Ah dash. Qi suddenly howled in pain and gave Gu Mingming a hard shove. He struggled free from Gu Mingming's hand, but he also lost consciousness and fainted. Qi. Gu Mingming ignored her pathetic state and scrambled to Qishuan's side. She hugged him and patted his face gently. Leah heard the commotion and rushed in. He helped Gu Mingming place Qi on the bed and sighed. Did you succeed? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, I don't know, he suddenly fainted. Chapter 1005. Leah, I realize that I no longer have the right to scold others for being selfish. Gu Mingming leaned into Li's arms, but her eyes were moist as she gazed at Qi. Her voice was choked with sobs. I become what I hate the most, selfish and greedy. I am unwilling to sacrifice myself, but still force Qi to stay by my side. Gu Mingming wanted to laugh, but the moment she opened her mouth, she started crying. I feel that I have become the kind of parent that children hate the most, judging the friends of the children based on their own preferences, forcefully stopping the children from interacting with what I see as bad friends. No matter how important the bad friends are to the children, I forcefully forbid them from interacting just because I don't like them. Am I a bad mother? If that's the case, it is right that Qi does not want to stay by my side, because I'm a bad mother. Sob. Silly girl. Leah sighed softly. He hugged Gu Mingming tightly. Only then could she feel that she was not alone and that he was still around. Kissing Gu Mingming's tears, he said, If you are really selfish, you will not be feeling so upset now. Selfish people can find millions of reasons to justify their selfishness, to make their selfishness seem righteous. Gu Mingming cried silently. She did not cry tragically, but the way her shoulders twitched made Li's heart ache. In the past, whenever the females in the tribe cried, Leah would usually laugh and say, cry for a while and stop crying when no one cares. Don't care. But now, he could not bear to put Gu Mingming down and let her sit here, crying alone. Xiaoming, we all know that you're doing this because you love Qi. You are afraid that he will be in more danger if he stays by Cole's side. You're doing this for his own good. For his own good. Ha! In the end, the one who hurts him the most is me, the one who says that I am doing this for his own good. Gu Mingming's heart throbbed as she gripped Li's arm tightly. Qi gave me a third option. As long as I am willing to sacrifice myself, he will be willing to come back. I heard that. Leah said, but you know very well. If I accepted Cole, the situation would become a fight to the death between Elvis, Cole, and me. We will not allow any male to force you against your will. Based on Qishuan's relationship with Cole, he will definitely help Cole. Then, either Elvis and I killed Cole and Qi, or they killed us. Either way, it would be worse than the current situation, wouldn't it? Gu Mingming knew that Leah was purposely telling her the worst-case scenario so that she could relieve the guilt in her heart. If she did not have Snake's 1,000 years of memories, if she did not have Wang Xiaoxin's psychological knowledge, perhaps she would become happy as Leah wished. But the cruelest thing about fate was that it took away the ifs and left only the results. And in the end, she had disregarded Qishuan's wishes and forcefully removed Cole from his life. Gu Mingming did not say anything else and just leaned on Li's shoulder, crying nonstop, because of guilt, but also because of heartache. She would never forget the look on Qishuan's face when he resisted her hypnosis. He hated her. Chapter 1006. Qi had been unconscious for 3 days, and Gu Mingming had accompanied him for 3 days without taking off her clothes. Her eyes were already bloodshot, but Gu Mingming refused to rest. She held on to Qi Xuan's hand with both hands and stared at him without blinking, as if she was afraid that Qi Xian would disappear the moment she closed her eyes. Finally, those slender eyelashes quivered slightly, and Gu Mingming immediately tensed up as if she had been electrified. Even her breathing became extremely light, as if only the person who had been unconscious for 3 days could attract her attention in this entire world. Qi Xian hooked his finger gently, then his eyelashes quivered even more. Every change tugged at Gu Mingming's heart, and her tightly pursed lips were so pale that not a single trace of blood could be seen. Finally, Qi Xian opened his eyes and stared blankly at the ceiling. He was completely expressionless, and there was no sign of life in him. He just stared at the sky quietly. Qi Xian, Qi Xian. Gu Mingming's voice was hoarse. She tried her best not to sound tired, but she had not slept for 3 days. If not for Snake's strength, she would have collapsed long ago. Qi Xian ignored Gu Mingming's call and did not respond at all. Gu Mingming was extremely afraid. She gently held on to Qi Xuan's hand and called out again, "Qi Xian, I am your mother." Qi Xian turned his head slightly and looked at Gu Mingming. His gaze was as if he was looking at a stranger, devoid of any emotions. Gu Mingming's dry eyes met Qi Xuan's, and neither of them said a word, until Qi Xian silently closed his eyes and then returned to his sleeping position, as if he had never woken up. "Qi." Elvis gently patted Gu Mingming's shoulder and said, "Since he is awake, he should be fine. Maybe he is just not used to it yet. Give him some time, don't worry too much." Gu Mingming pursed her lips and did not say a word. Elvis carried her into his arms and said, "You have not slept for 3 days. Now that he is awake, you should be at ease. You should at least sleep for a while. Otherwise, he will be fine, but you will fall." Gu Mingming shook her head. "I don't dare to sleep. I am afraid that once I wake up, Qi Xian will be gone." Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's forehead. "Leah and I are guarding the house, while Wabi is coiled up at the door. Even if he has 3 heads and 6 arms, he can't escape. Sleep for a while, all right?" Leah also sat beside Gu Mingming and promised, "Be good and sleep. I will guard him. If there's anything wrong with him, I'll wake you up immediately. Okay?" Gu Mingming knew that her emotions affected the entire family. Not just Elvis and Leah, even the 3 little ones and Wabi had not been feeling well for the past 3 days. Not wanting them to worry even more, Gu Mingming finally nodded. She tilted her head and leaned into Elvis's arms, slowly closing her eyes. Gu Mingming did not sleep well and woke up after half a day. The moment she opened her eyes, she realized that Qi Xian wasn't on the bed and all her drowsiness disappeared in an instant. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming, who was struggling to jump off the ground, and comforted her softly. "Don't panic, Qi Xian is fine. He's sitting at the door." Chapter 1007. Gu Mingming felt her heart settle back into her stomach. She slowly relaxed and stood up from Elvis's arms. She slowly walked to Qi Xuan's side and did not say anything. She just sat there quietly with him. They sat there until the night sky was dark and the moonlight shone brightly. Qi Xian stood up, still not saying a word. He just circled around Gu Mingming and returned to the cave. He laid on the bed he had woken up on, maintaining a supine position, and slowly closed his eyes. It was obvious that he had fallen asleep. Gu Mingming also wanted to stand up, but her legs were numb from sitting for so long. The moment she stood up, her entire body tilted. Luckily, Elvis reacted quickly and caught her, placing her in his arms. "Don't worry, it will be all right." Gu Mingming could only believe Elvis's words now that things had come to this. For the next 10 days, Qi Xian would wake up in the morning and sit at the door without moving. During this period, Huda and his brothers would bring him food. He would eat whatever they gave him, and if they didn't, he wouldn't eat. Then, he would sit there until midnight before returning to bed to sleep. He ignored everyone and did not say a single word. Gu Mingming was so worried that she could not think of a solution. In order not to make her worry, Elvis and Leah had used both the carrot and the stick on Qi Xian without her knowledge. But that fellow remained unmoved no matter how hard they tried. Be it Elvis's physical threats or Lee's verbal attacks, none of them could make Qi Xian say a word. Not even a change in his expression had happened. Until this day, Cole came. His arrival was tacitly approved by Gu Mingming. Otherwise, he would not be able to get past Wabi Ai. Cole stood in front of Qi Xian and just looked at him disdainfully. He called out softly, "Little Xian." Qi Xian looked up in a daze. His eyes met Cole's empty gaze. His expression was still blank, but his brows were slightly furrowed. He slowly got up and stood in front of Cole. After a long while, he turned back to the cave and lay back on the bed. He continued to sleep without a word. Cole stood at the door and glanced at Gu Mingming. He chuckled. "Gu, I waited for you for 10 days. Why didn't you come to see me?" Gu Mingming frowned and did not say a word. She just turned around and sat by Qi Xuan's bedside. Holding his hand, she quietly watched as he closed his eyes to sleep again. Cole chuckled. "Now that Qi Xian has returned to your side, I no longer have anything to threaten you with. You don't want to kill me?" Gu Mingming slowly released Qi Xuan's hand and gently stroked his hair. Then, she stood up and walked out of the cave. Due to her height, she had to look up at Cole. Over 10 days of worry had made her extremely haggard. When this face appeared in front of Cole at such a close distance, Cole frowned involuntarily. "Do you have a way?" Although it was a question, it sounded like a statement. "Let's talk about a condition. You help me save Qi Xian, and I will do something for you." "Anything?" Cole's question implied that he could save Qi Xian and had already thought of the conditions. Gu Mingming took a deep breath. "I cannot harm my partner, family, or friends. I could do anything else." Chapter 1008. "Sure," Gu Mingming answered without a hint of hesitation. Cole did not seem surprised by Gu Mingming's answer. He just narrowed his eyes and asked in a playful tone, "You can also put up with accepting me?" Gu Mingming clenched her fists tightly. Her entire body was trembling, but she still nodded and said, "Sure." Cole suddenly laughed and waved his hands, saying, "You don't have to be so angry. I will not make such a request. After all, I want to be the most special existence in your life, the one and only kind. You already have 2 partners. I don't care." He didn't care. Not only did Gu Mingming not feel the slightest bit of anger for being despised, she felt as if a huge burden had been lifted off her shoulders. Because in her predictions, this was the most disgusting and worst-case scenario. As long as it was not this, she did not mind breaking one of her arms or both of her legs, or even taking her life in exchange for Qi Xuan's safety. Cole pointed at Gu Mingming's neck and said, "I want you to cut off the guardian mark on the back of your neck and completely break all ties with Snake. How about that?" Gu Mingming's loosened fists instantly clenched tightly. It was not that she could not bear to part with Snake's power, nor was she afraid of getting hurt. It was just that this mark was the only thing Snake had left for her. He had protected her in 2 lifetimes, regardless of the cost. Now, she had to forcefully cut off all evidence of his existence and destroy all traces of him. Can't bear to part with him? Cole seemed rather unhappy. His gaze drifted towards Qi Xian, who was lying on the bed in the house. He said, "You don't really love this son of yours. Since that's the case, why don't you let me bring Qi Xian away? If I can wake him up once, I can wake him up a second time. Or, do you like this obedient son who won't disobey you so much that you want him to live obediently by your side for the rest of his life?" Gu Mingming looked up and took a step forward. Without any warning, that hand pierced through Cole's chest and dug a bloody hole in his right chest. Cole frowned and groaned, but did not dodge or struggle. Instead, he suddenly laughed and looked down at Gu Mingming's wrist that was stuck in his body. His smile gradually became crazier. "Ha! Ha! My Agu has grown up. You finally have sharp claws. That's great. The first person you scratched was me." Gu Mingming retracted her hand expressionlessly, while Elvis and Leah, who had smelled the scent of blood, rushed to her side the second after Gu Mingming's hand pierced through Cole's chest. Gu Mingming retracted her hand. From her fingers to her wrist, it was stained with blood, and a fishy smell permeated the air. Gu Mingming raised her hands horizontally and said, "Dirty, I need to wash my hands." Leah frowned and did not say anything. He just went back to fetch some clean water and came back to wash Gu Mingming's hands carefully. Gu Mingming stared straight at Cole and said, "If you have any more ideas about my son, next time, I will dig a hole on your left side." "No, Agu." Cole did not care that his wound was bleeding profusely. He smiled like a pervert and said, "If you want to torture me, you can't dig the left side of my chest. Because if my heart was ripped out, I would die. That way, you can't torture me anymore. Can you bear for me to die so comfortably, so easily? Don't you feel that you should let me suffer more pain and torture so that you can vent the anger in your heart? So if there's a next time, you should dig this side on the right side, right here. Dig out the newly grown flesh again. That's the most painful part. Do you understand? MMM. Aside from the topic, I saw some readers saying that it was fine to not have a son like Qi Xian, since he was not the only child anyway. But to a mother, the value of a child has nothing to do with the number of children. Every child is precious. You can't abandon them just because they are disobedient, or bring you trouble. MMM, today's update ends here. I will not let anything happen to him. Gu Mingming nodded, then slowly closed her eyes. Both physically and mentally exhausted, the moment Gu Mingming relaxed, rather than saying that she fell asleep, it would be more accurate to say that she fainted. However, this did not prevent her from entering the dream world to be a filial daughter. At the end of the white fog, she saw that two-seater bench. But strangely, that patch of green was no longer 2 square meters in size. It had expanded by several times. If it was originally the size of a bed, it now looked at least the size of a basketball court. Aside from the topic, cries for Cole to be killed rang out. Doesn't this mean that the villain I created is quite successful? Chapter 10:10. It was rare that the beast deity was not sitting on the long bench waiting for her leisurely. Instead, he stood at the entrance with his arms wide open. The moment he saw Gu Mingming, he immediately pulled her into his arms and said with a fatherly benevolence, "My precious daughter, you have suffered." Gu Mingming had not cried since Qi Xian woke up. The tears that she had held back for more than 10 days burst at the beast deity's words. She did not dare to cry in front of Elvis and Leah. She was also afraid that her son would see her tears. She had a hard time holding it in. Her chest felt stuffy and uncomfortable, as if it had been stuffed with cotton. The beast deity patted her on the back and said, "Silly girl, why hold it in all by yourself? Why didn't you come back earlier? You still have your father." Gu Mingming cried for a long time until she had vented all the pent-up emotions in her heart. Then, she looked up at the beast deity with her swollen eyes. "Can you answer my question first? I'm not in the mood to watch television now." The beast god nodded. "What do you want to ask?" Gu Mingming said, "I hypnotized Qi Xian, but the effects were strange. Qi Xian is like a doll whose soul has been hollowed out, living like a zombie. Father, did I do something wrong?" The beast deity caressed Gu Mingming's head and said with heartache and helplessness, "You have already done very well. You will be fine." Gu Mingming's eyes widened in an instant, and her tears were locked by hope. Her voice trembled slightly as she asked carefully, "Really?" It was only 2 words, but they expressed her uneasiness. Her slender fingers gripped the beast deity's sleeves tightly. Her fingertips turned white and trembled uncontrollably. The beast deity held Gu Mingming's hand. "Didn't you already give the soul of the forest to Qi Xian?" Gu Mingming was stunned for half a second. Then she nodded. The beast deity continued, "The soul of the forest has 2 leaves. The first one has already bloomed. It saved Qi Xuan's life, right?" Gu Mingming continued nodding. The beast deity said, "There is one more leaf. When the time is right, it will bloom. At that time, Qi Xian will return to normal." Gu Mingming asked anxiously, "Then, when will it unfold?" The beast god shook his head. "Wait." Gu Mingming's face darkened. "How long do I have to wait? My heart aches seeing Qi Xian in such a half-dead state." The beast deity chuckled. My heart aches when I see my daughter so heartbroken. Gu Mingming looked up at the beast deity's benevolent smile. She felt a lump in her throat and could not say a word. So this was how it felt to be doted on by a father. After the age of 5, she had forgotten about it. The beast deity placed his large hand on Gu Mingming's head and gently caressed it. He then said, "You must learn to trust your own children. They are not as weak as you think. Just like you, there are many times when you do things that surprise me and make me proud. For example, Gu Mingming was a mother in front of Qi Xian, but in front of the beast deity, she truly felt like a daughter. The feeling of a 19-year-old daughter pestering her father for comfort was really good. The beast deity smiled gently, looking as though he was deep in thought. After a moment of silence, he said, "For example, you often come back to watch television with me. When I went to the meeting last time, I asked others. Their children didn't go home to watch TV with them." Chapter 10-11. All right, accompany me to watch the drama first. We can talk about the rest later. The beast deity pulled Gu Mingming to sit on the long bench and brushed away the white fog. Knowing that Qi Xian had the soul of the forest to protect him and would eventually get better, Gu Mingming felt much better. Immortals wouldn't lie, would they? At least her father did not lie to her. With her mood relaxed, Gu Mingming stopped crying. She held onto the beast deity's arm and leaned her head on his shoulder, accompanying him to watch the drama. The lights in the villa were still dim, but even so, it could not hide Gu Mingming's distress. She instinctively wanted to snatch the love letter from Snake's hand. But how could Snake let her succeed? With just a light wave of his hand, he had the absolute advantage based on the difference in height. Gu Mingming could not snatch it by force, so she could only smile awkwardly and say, You still kept it? Your first love letter, of course I have to keep it." Snake's smile was light, but it carried a hint of settling scores after the fall. Gu Mingming mumbled softly, "It's not for you." Snake acted as if he did not hear her, but his face darkened further. His slender fingers took out the letter from the envelope. One corner of the letter had been rubbed so hard by him that it looked like it was about to crack. His 2 fingers just happened to pinch on that crease. If one did not look closely, one would not be able to tell that the part below those 2 fingers had been ravaged by him. "I like you like a sweet dream in the midst of warmth. I like you like the rain falling on the tropics and the poles from thousands of miles away. I like you like the smoke from the kitchen chimney, the snow and the rain falling from the pears. I like you like the clouds chasing after the wind, without asking where it came from. I like you. 10 miles of spring wind cannot compare to you." Snake read every word, his tone and sentences perfectly timed. His eyes were fixated on Gu Mingming's face, as if the letter in his hand was just a prop. This person had already memorized the contents of the letter, as if the letter in his hand was just evidence that Gu Mingming could not deny. Are you sure that someone like Zhang Jinsheng, who has never scored double digits in Chinese, can understand this kind of sentence? Gu Mingming had already been forced into a corner by Snake and had nowhere to hide. When he leaned over, Gu Mingming pressed herself against the wall, looking as if she wanted to embed herself into the wall. She was a little timid and helpless, but this made the anger in Snake's chest gradually dissipate. In any case, Zhang Jinsheng had never seen this love letter before. Apart from him, no one had seen it. And the person who wrote this love letter now belonged to him and only him. However, he couldn't let her pass so easily. Otherwise, he didn't know how bold she would be next time. Cupping his hands beside Gu Mingming's ears, Snake's face pressed closely against the tip of Gu Mingming's nose. His warm and ambiguous breath blew onto Gu Mingming's face. Snake said in a low voice, "Or, you don't even like him that much, so you never intended for him to understand or accept this love letter from the start." Gu Coward shrunk her neck and said softly, "I didn't know that his Chinese wasn't good." Snake gritted his teeth. Who was the one who said she was a coward? In the 19 years of his rebirth, no one dared to go against his wishes when he was so angry. He had already given her a way out, but she still refused to come down. His teeth were itching, He really wanted to bite her death and end it once and for all. But he knew that he couldn't bear to. Aside from the topic, yeah, everyone had been disgusted by Cole recently. Chapter 10:12. Now that you know, do you intend to write a new one that matches his reading level? Do you need me to guide you? Gu Meng Meng shook her head. I already have a boyfriend. Why would I write a love letter to someone else? His anger dissipated in an instant. Even Snake himself found it unbelievable. So he was so easy to coax. Just one sentence from her could pull him into the clouds. All the things that she had done to make him unhappy could be written off. His large hand wrapped around Gu Mingming's waist and lifted her up, pressing her against his abdomen. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. It was a lingering and loving kiss, as if it was a small reward. But I still mind that your first love letter wasn't written to me. Your first words of love weren't meant for me. You racked your brains to choose the right words to write, but they didn't belong to me. Gu Mingming was a little breathless from Snake's kiss. Her body turned soft as she laid on Snake's chest. That was copied by me? Snake's eyes lit up and his mood improved. Gu Mingming was a little shy. She lowered her head and said, I saw a sentence on an app. I thought it was beautiful, so I copied it down as a love letter. I didn't think of it myself, huh? Snake was happy again. His woman did not spend her time on others. Her love letter was so half-hearted. It was obvious that she really did not like Zhang Jinsheng that much. Even so, I am still jealous. Snake hooked Gu Mingming's chin gently. So, tell me, how are you going to make it up to me? Jealous? He was the great CEO. He was high up in the clouds. He was a child favored by God. Mortals could only look up to him. How could he feel jealousy just because her first love letter was for someone else? I will also copy one for you. Gu Mingming asked tentatively. Snake raised his eyebrows. Copy. Gu Mingming shook her head. She immediately corrected herself. I will think of it myself. I will think of it myself. Snake planted another kiss on Gu Mingming's lips. Only then did he let her go. Seeing her running for her life upstairs and slamming the door, Snake could not help but smile. He heard the sound of her breathing heavily behind the door, trying to calm her racing heart. I look forward to it, my Tu Ming. The next day was the weekend, and Gu Mingming did not need to go to school. But as she was used to waking up early for work, she still woke up at 7 a.m. sharp. Just as she put on her clothes, she heard someone knocking on the door. Rubbing her eyes, she opened the door and saw Snake leaning against the door frame, smiling at her. Good morning. Gu Mingming was stunned for half a second before slamming the door shut. She quickly retreated into the washroom to wash her face and brush her teeth. Gu Mingming held onto her chest and took a deep breath before opening the door again. Snake was still standing there in the same position as before, as if he was frozen in time. Even his smile was the same loving one. Good morning, Senior. It was her first time greeting her boyfriend, and she felt an indescribable sweetness growing in her heart, spreading throughout her entire body. Snake held onto Gu Mingming's waist and pecked her on the lips. Let's go downstairs for breakfast. You made this? Gu Mingming looked at the exquisite Western-style breakfast on the table and was stunned. Chapter 10:13. Snake scooped up a little potato avocado salad with a small spoon and brought it to Gu Mingming's mouth. He looked at her gently, waiting for her to open her mouth. Gu Mingming's face was extremely red. She had never been fed by anyone since she could remember. She could not take it when Snake was teasing her so early in the morning. I can do it myself, Gu Mingming said softly. He held onto her hand that was about to take the spoon and pulled it before wrapping it around his waist. She sat in front of the dining table while he stood leaning against it. The sunlight shone through the European-style wooden windows, casting a warm glow on Snake's back. His slender and very good-looking hand held a small spoon and stopped it by her lips. He smiled faintly and asked, If you can do everything yourself, then why do you still need a boyfriend like me? Gu Mingming's heart was about to jump out of her throat. Luckily, she was sitting down, or else her legs would have given way and she would have fallen to the ground. Snake let out a soft sound, indicating for her to open her mouth. Being stared at by him, Gu Mingming obediently opened her mouth, allowing him to place that small piece of potato avocado salad into her mouth. Then, he looked at her with a gentle and expectant gaze and asked, "Is it delicious?" The tip of Gu Mingming's tongue was numb, and she could not taste anything at all. Now that the blood in her body was boiling, who would know if the potato avocado salad was delicious? But even if she could not taste anything, Gu Mingming still nodded obediently. Not for any other reason, but because his teasing this early in the morning had already made her feel that the whole world was filled with sweet pink bubbles. Was it important what she was eating? Was it important? Not at all. The smile on Snake's face widened. He leaned forward and kissed Gu Mingming's lips. His nimble tongue swept into Gu Mingming's mouth, sucking in the lingering aftertaste between her teeth. Getting up, Snake gently wiped away the saliva he left on Gu Mingming's lips and chuckled. "Yeah, I'll remember it. I'll cook for you according to this taste in the future." Gu Mingming's face was so red that it looked like blood was about to drip out. She pushed Snake'll and said, "What? I am your assistant. Taking care of your 3 meals is my job. Let me cook for you in the future." Snake took 2 steps back and sat on the other seat beside Gu Mingming, creating a suitable distance between them. Of course, he wanted to stick to her like this, but her heartbeat was so loud that he could hear it clearly from so far away. If he didn't move away, she would have a heart attack, right? He liked that she was shy because of him, but he was also afraid that she would explode on the spot. After drinking a sip of milk elegantly, Snake replied, "Your superior is your boyfriend, so you can have unspoken rules in the workplace. I accept and will cooperate fully." Cough, 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 cough. Gu Mingming choked and almost coughed out her lungs. What unspoken rules? Too shameful. Snake chuckled and caressed her back. "Eat slowly. I won't snatch your food." Gu Mingming waved her hands and shook her head. It's better to keep a clear line between public and private affairs. Dating Snake was already stressful enough. If she did not even work, she would really feel that she was being kept by someone. Chapter 10:14. Gu Mingming laughed softly. Using such a domineering tone of a CEO to say such willful words, coupled with that devilish face, it was an inexplicable harmony. Seeing her laugh, Snake's mood became even better. This was the happiest morning he had in 19 years. He could say good morning to her, then accompany her for breakfast. Gu Mingming felt a little uncomfortable under Snake's stare, so she changed the topic. "Senior, you're really good at cooking." Snake chuckled softly, then looked at Gu Mingming with one hand supporting his cheek. "I can do other things even better. Do you want to try?" Damn it. Gu Mingming had never been in a relationship before, but she felt that she understood it instantly. Gu Mingming's face, which had finally calmed down, instantly turned red again. She immediately lowered her head and stared at the salad on her plate, not daring to look at Snake. Snake knew that she had misunderstood, but refused to admit that he had purposely said those ambiguous words to lead her. He just said in a very normal tone, "If I were to list out the things I know, it would probably be as thick as a Chinois dictionary. Cooking is just one of the simplest." As thick as a Chinois dictionary. Gu Mingming really wanted to say that Snake was bragging, but when she looked up at him, she strangely felt that he was speaking the truth. God was indeed biased. He seemed to be so good to Snake that it was infuriating. "Is there nothing you don't know?" Gu Mingming sighed sorrowfully. Snake thought for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, there is one thing I don't know." What is it?" Gu Mingming's eyes lit up. She wanted to learn this thing that Snake didn't know, so that at least she could win against him. Snake chuckled and pinched Gu Mingming's face. "I won't leave you." Thump, thump. Gu Mingming's heart beat violently twice, then stopped for 3 beats. Lowering her head, she forcefully stuffed a mouthful of salad into her mouth. "Don't talk when eating, don't talk when sleeping." Snake chuckled. He took in every interesting reaction on her face. Yes, these were the treasures that he had waited for her for 19 years. He couldn't waste even a single frame. Moreover, he decided not to tell her that the reason why he had learned so many things was so that he could do anything for her when she needed it. No matter how much he hated fire, he he still insisted on standing next to the stove and learned all kinds of exquisite cooking methods from all over the world, just so that he could no longer take out roasted meat that was roasted black like charcoal and still had traces of blood on the inside for her to eat. He didn't want to see her get poisoned again after eating the food he gave her. He planned to pay for that mistake with every meal of his life. Tuming. Snake held Gu Mingming's hand and looked into her eyes. I will only borrow you once in this lifetime. This journey will be the rest of my life. I'm dating you with this belief. So, Tuming, answer me. You won't leave me, right? Gu Mingming hesitated for a moment, but still smiled and nodded her head. Never to leave? Gu Mingming was actually not confident. But God pretends not to hear the sweet words of lovers blown by the wind. Chapter 10:15. Snake had to accompany Gu Mingming in school from Monday to Friday, so he had to go to Monsieur Company to work on Saturday and Sunday. After all, there were many documents that required his signature before they could be stored in the warehouse, and many decisions had to be approved by him before they could be implemented. So after breakfast, Snake brought Gu Mingming into the changing room and asked her to pick a set of clothes for him to wear today. Suit after suit were neatly lined up on the clothes rack, from black to lighter colors, with the lightest being light gray. Yeah, there were white suits in the past, but ever since Gu Mingming teased him that he was the most handsome KFC in a white suit, Snake had thrown away all the white suits. To be honest, Gu Mingming only had one word for suits, and that was handsome. She would watch the red carpet of the various award ceremonies every year, but she could not tell the difference between the suits worn by the male celebrities other than the color of the suits. So Gu Mingming was actually a little flustered when Snake asked her to pick a suit. After all, they had spent too little time together, and she really did not understand Snake's preferences. What if she picked the wrong one? Gu Mingming sneaked a peek at Snake from the corner of her eye, and Snake seemed to have seen through her uneasiness. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, whispering into her ear, "Pick one that you think looks good. I will wear it for you to see. As long as you like it, I will like it." Gu Mingming's heart tightened, and she shrank her neck. Then, her fingers landed on a khaki 3-button suit for 4 years, and she took it down. She then found an excuse to struggle out of Snake's arms, and placed the suit on his body to size it up. Snake knew that she was not used to being hugged by him, so he did not force her. He just looked at her calmly, allowing her to size it up. Gu Mingming put the khaki suit back and took a dark coffee-colored suit. She compared it and felt that this color looked better, so she secretly looked up at Snake's expression, trying to gauge his intentions. Snake looked at her with a smile and said indulgently, "Like it? I will wear it for you to see." With that, Snake started to unbutton his own shirt. Gu Mingming was shocked and shouted, "Don't move." Snake really stopped moving as if someone had pressed the pause button. He then stared fixedly at Gu Mingming. When she raised her head to look at him, the corners of her lips curved up, and she said, "What? Tuming wants to help me take off my clothes?" Gu Mingming's face turned even redder. She shook her head like a rattle drum and said, No, I'll leave the clothes for you first. I'll go out first. You can slowly change." With that, Gu Mingming wanted to run. She had only taken one step when her wrist was grabbed by Snake. With a little force, she fell into Snake's arms. Snake looked down at her and smiled. "You're my personal assistant. Isn't it part of your job to help me pack my luggage? Why run? Packing up for the trip, does that include taking off and putting on clothes?" Gu Mingming wanted to retort, but she knew her own limits. With that unequal contract, she could not possibly gain any advantage over Snake. Pursing her lips, Gu Mingming looked up at Snake pitifully. "Didn't you say we can have unspoken rules?" Chapter 10:16. Gu Mingming blinked her eyes, not knowing whether to advance or retreat. Sleep with him, it was not that she did not want to, but she did not dare to. Gu Mingming did not have the guts to do so. Not sleep with him? Did she really have to tear off his clothes and put them on herself? Snake inched his face closer to Gu Mingming's and said, "Kiss me, and I'll consider it as you sleeping with me." If it was just a kiss, it was acceptable. After all, their first kiss could be done in public. So a kiss on the cheek when no one was around was acceptable to Gu Mingming. So she leaned forward and prepared to give Snake a peck on the cheek. But before he could touch her, Snake turned his head and their lips touched each other without any mistake. Snake's green eyes were full of smiles, with gentleness and a hint of craftiness after getting his way. Gu Mingming blushed and retracted her mouth as if she was electrocuted. She wanted to run, but Snake did not let her. He hugged her waist tightly and said, "This is the first time you took the initiative to kiss me. I enjoyed it very much." With that, he kissed Gu Mingming's cheek again and said, "Wait for me at the door. Don't go too far." Gu Mingming nodded. Only then did Snake let go of her and let her run out like the wind. Snake changed into the dark coffee-colored three-button suit that Gu Mingming had chosen for him and matched it with a pair of exquisite handmade leather shoes. He took out a striped tie the same color from the necktie box and was about to tie it when he stopped. "Tu Ming, come in." Gu Mingming cupped her face with both her hands and separated her fingers slightly. A pair of big eyes peeked out from between her fingers, and she heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Snake was already dressed. She then walked in. Snake handed the tie to Gu Mingming and said, "Help me tie it." Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly and said, "But I don't know how to tie a tie." "Do whatever you want. It's fine even if it's a dead knot." "Huh?" Gu Mingming was a little confused. Although she was not knowledgeable, she could tell that the tie was not cheap. Moreover, Snake was going to work today. A dignified CO wearing expensive clothes, but a dead knot on his tie. "This is not good. I just want you to tie me up. However you want to tie me up." Uff. Gu Mingming burst out laughing. He was not a dog. What did he have to say about being tied up? However, Gu Mingming really did not know how to tie a tie, but she did not tie a knot for Snake. Instead, she tied the tie like how a red scarf was tied. Snake himself was very satisfied, but Gu Mingming was so embarrassed that she wanted to chop off her own claws. Snake drove Gu Mingming to Monsieur Company himself. Gu Mingming did not know if it was a psychological trick, but her gaze was fixated on Snake's necktie. The more she looked, the more guilty she felt, and the more inappropriate she felt. "Why don't you untie it and redo it yourself?" Gu Mingming could not help but ask, but Snake smiled and said, "No need, this is good, very good." This knot was tied by Tu Ming, and because of this knot, Tu Ming's gaze was always on him. Untie? Heh, whoever dared to dispel it, he would risk his life to fight them. The car drove all the way to the underground car park of Monsieur Company. There was a special parking space for Snake there. After parking the car, they directly entered the elevator that was reserved for the CEO. Out of habit, she wanted to press the top floor, but her fingers suddenly hesitated. Chapter 1017. Aren't we going to the office? Gu Mingming asked in confusion. Snake hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and kissed her forehead. "I'll bring you around the lobby first. Let the people in the company get to know the future lady boss." Gu Mingming blushed. The blush on her face did not fade for the entire day. Ding dong, the elevator doors opened. The receptionist opposite the elevator was clearly stunned. Firstly, she had never seen the CEO walk out of the elevator on the first floor. Secondly, the CEO had always been a loner and never allowed anyone to get close to him. But today, he was hugging a woman. "Hello, CEO." The receptionist was quick to react and immediately stood up to greet Snake. Snake did not say a word. He just hugged Gu Mingming and walked around the lobby. Then, he returned to the elevator doors and pressed all the buttons on the first floor. Then, he retreated before the doors closed. When the elevator went up, he then pressed the up button from outside. His right hand was still wrapped around Gu Mingming's shoulder the entire time, not letting go for even a second. Gu Mingming felt extremely uncomfortable being stared at like X-rays. She asked softly, "What are you doing?" Snake smiled faintly. "Waiting for the elevator." Gu Mingming, an empty elevator exclusive to the SO, stopped at every floor for a while before opening. Everyone in the company was shocked. After standing up to greet him, they realized that the elevator was empty. The CEO was not inside at all. Hence, they looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. When the elevator finally returned to the first floor, Snake brought Gu Mingming in. Then, he pressed the button for the highest floor and went to the office. Gu Mingming's face was red and awkward the entire time. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. Along the way, everyone with eyes kept staring at her, as if she was naked. After entering Snake's office, Gu Mingming collapsed on the sofa armrest. She was speechless at Snake's cheerful mood. Was it because rich people's brain circuits were different from normal people's? Didn't novels always say that CEOs would be secretive when dating poor girls for fear of being discovered? Why was he so ostentatious? Wasn't he afraid that his mother would throw a check in her face and force her to leave him? Sensing Gu Mingming's gaze, Snake, who had just sat on the office chair and approved a document, looked up at her and said, "You are looking at me like this. Are you hinting to me that you want something to happen here?" Damn it, another instant understanding. Gu Mingming deeply felt that she was not pure. Turning his head away, he said, "Why did you play with the elevator like that?" Snake looked at Gu Mingming in surprise. "I'm flaunting my love. It's so obvious, can't you tell?" Cough, cough, cough. Gu Mingming looked at Snake speechlessly and said, "So why are you showing off your love?" Snake touched his nose and smiled sweetly. His voice was filled with joy. "I just can't wait to let everyone know that you are the person I like, and we are together." Looking at Snake's gentle expression and hearing his every word that seemed to resonate with his heartbeat, the uneasiness and awkwardness in Gu Mingming's heart gradually melted. She did not know when Snake fell in love with her, but these few days of interaction made her certain of one thing. Snake really loved her very much and loved her terribly. Aside from the topic, cold dog food was randomly slapped on her face. Chapter 10:18. The white fog gradually gathered, and the scene disappeared behind it. Gu Mingming felt like she had just watched a sweet movie, and her mood became much better. She stretched lazily and stood up from the chair. Turning back, she met the beast deity's smiling gaze. "Father, this place is much bigger than the last time I was here," Gu Mingming said. The beast deity nodded. "Yes, you brought more hope to the beast world, so you obtained more power." But she did not do anything. Gu Mingming looked at the beast deity in confusion. After a long silence, she suddenly understood something. The first time the Grassy appeared was not because she merged the mermaid tribe and giant fish tribe, nor because she dug the well. It was because she obtained the kiss of the ocean. So the reason why the area became bigger this time was because of the soul of the forest? As if he could read Gu Mingming's mind, the beast deity rubbed her head. "When you gather the 7 treasures, the white fog will dissipate." Looking at it now, it should be a beautiful grassland, full of hope. Gu Mingming's mind buzzed. She remembered that the beast deity had once told her that when the white fog dissipated, the doors of time and space would open. Instinctively taking a step back, Gu Mingming gazed at the beast deity. "I can choose not to return, right?" The beast deity nodded. "No one can force you. The choice is in your hands." It was the same answer as the previous time. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. Taking 2 deep breaths, Gu Mingming adjusted her emotions. "I came here this time because I have a few questions. Ask away." The beast deity looked like a good father who would tell her everything. Gu Mingming said, "Do you know a female called Melinda whom I saved when I was retrieving the kiss of the ocean?" The beast deity chuckled. I watched True Records of Love in the Battlefield." Gu Mingming chuckled. True Records of Love in the Battlefield was a joke she had made when she helped Melinda and Carter clear the stray beasts on the way back. But since the beast deity already knew, Gu Mingming did not say anything else. So she asked directly, "There's just something I don't understand. Why did Dora want Melinda dead? She likes Fei Rue, but Fei Rue and Melinda are siblings." The beast deity rubbed Gu Mingming's head. "Because of jealousy." Jealous? Gu Mingming could not understand. The beast god nodded and continued. "Fei Rue and Dora grew up together. Dora has always liked Fei Rue, but ever since Melinda was born, Fei Rue's attention has been completely focused on his precious sister. He has become colder and colder towards Dora. Dora kept trying to get on Fei Rue's good side. She used all kinds of methods to get Fei Rue's attention, but she could not get Fei Rue's attention back from Melinda. Hence, she decided to kill Fei Rue. She thinks that as long as Melinda dies, Fei Rue's attention will return to her. Gu Mingming held her forehead. She was really on the verge of breaking down. She thought that in modern times, the kind of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law fight 70 times was already the peak of ethical dramas. She didn't expect that this kill your sister because I love you would reach the peak. Shaking her head, Gu Mingming only wanted to clarify the situation, but she did not have the strength to judge who was right or wrong. Love was something that could not be explained clearly. Chapter 1019. The beast deity held on to Gu Mingming's stray hair and looked at her neck. He chuckled. Yeah, it has changed. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She frowned. But Snake looked fine just now. The beast deity nodded. The guardian mark is different from the mating mark. The guardian mark will change according to the power you have inherited. Gu Mingming stared blankly at the beast deity. Forgive her for not understanding what he was saying. The beast deity thought for a moment. Do you still remember the poisonous fog you sucked in with the kiss of the ocean? Gu Mingming nodded. The beast deity chuckled. That was the venom of a snake. Without waiting for Gu Mingming to ask, he continued. Do you still remember the blood you sucked into your palm to retrieve the soul of the forest? Gu Mingming nodded again. The beast deity continued. That was the blood of a snake. Gu Mingming frowned. She did not understand. The beast deity continued. Then do you know who that snake is? Gu Mingming shook her head. The beast deity said whales. The beast deity only said one name, but it made Gu Mingming shudder. Whales. Snake's biological father. The one whose heart was dug out by Wang Xiaoxin. The beast deity nodded. He agreed with Gu Mingming's guess. Then he continued. What Snake left you is his personal protection mark and also a key. You absorbed whale's blood and venom. That is equivalent to activating this key and opening the door to the guardian mark. You should have realized it yourself. You are much stronger than before. In the past, the snake species submitted to you because they feared your Beast King powers. Or they wanted to use your identity as the messenger of the beast deity to gain protection. Or they were like Wabi-Ai, who saw you in a different light because of Snake. But now, the beast deity paused for a moment before continuing. Now, your protection mark has changed from Snake's personal mark to the Snake Clan's protection mark. In other words, no snake species can go against your orders. You are the absolute ruler and cannot be disobeyed. Gu Mingming frowned. She recalled Wabi-Ai's strange behavior the day they returned with the soul of the forest. That day, she clearly didn't release her aura. All she said was stop, and Wabi-Ai collapsed to the ground like boiled noodles, unable to get up. Cole also said that if she did not let him up, he would definitely not be able to get up. So, it wasn't because of the Beast King's strength, but because of the change in the Guardian Mark. Do you still remember Ellie's death? The Beast Deity continued. Back then, she had forcefully disobeyed Snake's orders. That was why her scales fell off piece by piece, and her skin was peeled off while she was still alive. It was obvious how furious Snake was then. And now you have the same ability. Gu Mingming frowned, feeling a little uncomfortable. She clearly remembered the Beast Deity saying that after Whales died, Wang Xiaoxin realized that she had fallen in love with him. So she gave up the chance to return to the modern world and wanted to stay in the beast world. But then why did Whale's blood and venom appear in the deep sea and Zacharias? The Beast Deity kissed Gu Mingming's forehead. All right, you will understand some things in the future. Hurry back, or else Elvis and Leah will be very worried about you. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.